So, welcome back. I know I've been gone for a few days, but I've been running errands since I returned from my trip, which was rather short, actually. The trip was short. Usually, when I travel internationally, which I just started 3 years ago, I usually like to take at least like 10 to 14 days to really uh, get a good understanding of, the locals and the people that are around the area. But this time it was very short, but I still had a great time and I learned a lot about the people. But like the last few days, I've just been running errands, shopping and just taking care of things that kind of should have taken care of before I left, and getting ready for the school year. So we do start this week, um, and I'm excited to, meet my new group of students and begin a great new year. Um, so I wanted to begin this video with sort of what we've learned about multilingual learners. So I did want to read a section from, again, the book called The Struggles of Minority English Learners, How Learner Feedback Can Improve English Skills. So the learner feedback is very important. Feedback is just very important. Just in general, feedback is amazing. I mean, every day I learn about myself just from basic feedback, whether it's reflection. I do like to reflect uh, on myself, on things that, that don't go so well for the day or that do go well. So I try to celebrate the things that do go well, and I try to reflect on what I can do better for the next time. And that goes for anything. And I'll give you an example. So the first trip I took was in Italy, and that was my first international trip, and I was very nervous because I've never done anything like this. I've never done anything solo like this, and I was homesick, um, and I felt like the trip was too long, but it really wasn't. It was like 9 days, 8 days, 8 nights. Um, and I had someone plan it for me, so maybe I only had like a couple of activities planned, and that was one thing that I changed for the next trip to Greece, as I added more activities to keep me busy and to keep me sort of active while I was, out. So I I was homesick in Italy, and I just I didn't know the language. I was uncomfortable with the communication styles, but eventually I was able to pick up like the basics of like how to get by, hi, bye, thank you, how much is the tip, or what do I need to give for the tip, or how to read a menu, how to communicate what I want on a menu, those types of things. I was able to get by with. I finally, got the translation apps and was able to do that. And just getting by also with the taxis out there. I use euros to pay for the taxis in Italy, and then all my euros were like quickly, and I'm like, whoa, that's wild. So I, for the next trip, the following year, I was able to sort of, okay, get a little bit wiser. Try not to use the euros for taxis. Use the apps. Actually, the apps are much cheaper, or much more affordable um, in in many of the countries in Europe. So I was able to do that, and then and to get to know the locals, like what's fun, what ask the locals, what's fun, what's a fun thing to do, and that was helpful. And so, every time I travel somewhere internationally now, I get better at it and I'm less homesick. So, this trip to Spain, I actually didn't feel any homesickness. I was okay, I was better. Um, and I was comfortable, and I was really happy. I had a really good time, other than a few of the hiccups with the excursions that I booked. Because if you go to Spain or a lot of these places where there's iconic, museums and historical sites, you really do have to book early, or else they're already booked for months. Like when I went to Spain, the Sagrada Familia was is booked for months. Um, and so that day, I booked an excursion, and the tour guide never showed up. And I was really upset. I was waiting right there in front of the Sagrada Familia, and no one came. So I kept contacting the tour company, and I said, "Look, no one's here. I'm waiting. There's no one with a flag, with a purple flag waving." And so I had to rebook, and I got lucky. I rebooked that day, and I was able to get in. I wanted to get into the towers because you could book for the church, and then you could book for going all the way up the towers, and then looking at the city. And so I did book to go up the towers because I do like to exercise. So you have to, well, they have an elevator that takes you up, and then you have to climb down. Um, it wasn't as impressive as the Duomo in Italy, but it was still beautiful. I had no complaints other than, there were some things I was disappointed with. Let's just put it that way. Some things, but not everything. But part of it again was my uncomfortability with the situation. Like I booked a kayaking, you know, sort of lake tour thing in Spain, and you're supposed to have a partner when you kayak, and I didn't have a partner, and the tour guide was like, "You're on your own," and I really didn't know how to respond. I'm like, okay, I've never done this before. So I basically opted out of the kayaking because the waters were choppy too. They were very choppy. Um, and I was kind of scared. I didn't want to go in there with the waters and the waves being that strong. And I was very grateful that I did that, because when I saw the other group people go in, and there was like three of us in the group, so I kind of understand, like it would do that part of the excursion, but I was able to do the other things. It was like an 8-hour day with this particular trip. Anyhow, so I do think that reflecting on ourselves on a daily basis, whether as a professional or as just a human being, we do need to reflect on how we can improve, how we can work on ourselves. Some things are very difficult to sort of work on. It takes time, but I do think it is part of, it. We do need to take time and look at how we can improve, um, even in our classroom. So how does this look in the classroom? So in the book there is a section that is titled What Was Learned. It's actually on page 69, and it says, by asking students about the perceptions of different learning strategies, I sought to discover EL students' perceptions about those strategies that involve their engagement with English reading. Evaluation of the responses was made through the lens of Egan. Egan is one of the researchers and one of the theoretical frameworks I used for my dissertation. Remember, this book comes from my dissertation. So I don't want to get too boring, but Egan was all about the imaginative education theory as it relates to learning and to the socio-cultural environment. So according to his theories, teachers can use different strategies to improve student understanding from one level to the next. So one of the anecdotal findings was the effect on learning that comes from forming connections between teachers and students. So again, it's that bond that we sort of develop, the rapport that we develop with our students at the beginning of the year and throughout the year. Now, one thing I already mentioned was that I am very strict. I am very structured, and in some ways, it can put people off. But I also want to maintain my professional, standard sort of professional uh, behavior towards my students as well. Um, so, but it is important. I always try to develop a rapport with students. So one thing I also do is I give away free stuff. I just give it away. So I'll get a lot of free stuff over the years, or over the semester, or over both semesters, and I'll just give it to students. Sometimes I'll bring free stuff in. I know in the last couple of years I haven't, but sometimes I'll bring for stuff in and I'll just give it to them. Like, I got a tumbler one year from the Teacher Appreciation Week, and I don't really need a tumbler, but this one was a really nice one. But I have so many tumblers from so many conferences I've been at and presented at, so I just gave it away. We got a blanket one year. I gave it away. Whatever I can give away, I do. I just kind of give it away. I don't do any rewards with them. I just, does anyone want this? Here you go. That helps with rapport, because it kind of shows that you're a kind person, right? You're nice. I'm at least nice. I do have this, very sort of regimented way and approach of going about my classroom. But it is important to, to have that, the rapport between teachers and students. You're not going to win them all. I'm never going to win all my students every year, because you just not. And I try. I do try. I try with every one of my students. And yes, it's exhausting. But I do try. I really do try. But some students just they don't want that. They just That's who they are, and I just sort of let it be and let them have their space. And sometimes they eventually come around, but sometimes they don't. But I really do try with all my students. I'm always focused on my number one goal is their academic success, their success in my classroom. Um, and then sort of being a mentor kind of a thing. I try. I give them career advice if they're seniors, because I think I do have a lot of good advice. And I give them some, if they have friend problems, I try to help them. But again, most students know how they're going to go about their own business, but they know that I'm there for them, and I do check-ins. Like I'll do check-ins like every half, like in midweek, beginning of the week, end of the week, maybe end of the mid-semester. Like, how am I doing? I don't open myself up for too much, because I know what I'm, kind of, I know what I'm dealing with, kind of a thing. But I do ask them, am I being helpful? I'll ask them, am I being supportive? Am I giving you the resources and the tools that you need to succeed, for your next level of life? And I think it's important that's also part of the rapport thing, doing check-ins. You could do that in the form of a warm-up. You could do it in a discussion. You could do it, there's so many ways you can do it. Whatever your personality, however your personality sort of works, use it for developing that rapport. obviously in a professional way, um, but it's important to check in with students. And sometimes, uh, sometimes I forget, and sometimes I get so busy and caught up in everything. Uh, and then I come home and I'm like, okay, I've got to check in. So I'll make it a point to check in like at the end of the day, the next day. And I put it on my to-do list. Like I'll make a list. I'll make a list of things that I need to do that are very important. Obviously, teaching, so, guidance, whatever. And then, make sure you check in with your students because, that's important. That's necessary to remember that. They're little beings. They're little people. They're almost adults. I teach high school, so I have to remember that they're going to go out in the world and they're not going to have anybody. At least like a teacher, but they'll have a guide. They'll have a counselor in college guiding them through courses and everything else. But I just have to. You always have to remember that these are people that you know they may need more help in certain areas. So I always try to provide that help. So I wanted to continue an anecdotal, again, that connection with the students on a personal yet still professional level provides for better introspect about their likes and dislikes and their needs and goals, but it also can provide insight into their histories and the challenges they face in their personal lives and how those may affect their learning. As as I was seeking EL student perceptions, it was helpful to have a connection with them so I could discover their interests with different materials from different classes. For example, one student loves mystery novels, and once I gave her a choice to choose her literature, I realized she preferred mysteries, but does not like comic books or scientific reading. This information, can be applied later. So you can by finding out what students' interests are, what they like, what they dislike, you can apply that to your whole curriculum for the whole year, for the whole semester. And again, obviously, you have a curriculum that's set by the district, by the state, by your department, but hopefully you can discuss choices within that curriculum, within that framework, right? I know in my case, we have lots of options within the curriculum, within the framework, within the standards. So I try to pick and choose which 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 stories, which poems, which novels to sort of explore with students based on their interest levels. It does help. I mean, we can't. I'm not perfect. You can't be a perfect. You can't find the perfect story, perfect poem, perfect whatever to fit everything that all students like, but you can at least find a certain theme, right, from the selections you have to fit that particular puzzle that you're trying to solve with your students, right, to at least make them somewhat happy, right. um, but I do think that that rapport is very important and reflection is very important. I reflect every day. Just today, what did I do? I went to go. I went to go get transmission service on my car because it's been needing it. So I would go to my local transmission person, but they don't do transmission. The dealer here doesn't do transmission. I have a particular car brand, and I go to. You can go to any dealer and get an oil change. It doesn't have to be the same dealer that your particular car is, but so I go to them locally because they do a really great job. But they don't do transmissions. So I had to drive like an hour and a half. So I'm reflecting, right? Do I really need to drive an hour and a half to get this done? Well, all of the places, like not all, but I didn't feel comfortable doing it with some of the places around me. So I knew the manager at the dealer where I had to drive like about an hour and a half to I knew the manager. He was a friend. We graduated high school together. He was a very nice guy, just very nice, very sweet, very like, just like cream of the crop, easy to talk to, easy to tell him what I needed, and very helpful. And his son was working. His son works, anyway, his son works with him, but uh, he just lovely people, lovely. So I'm like, yeah, I'm willing to drive an hour and a half to get that kind of service. So I did, and everything worked out. And I reflected, and I'm like, yeah, I'd do it again if I had to, because they were great. I mean, they're just phenomenal. You like reflection is everything to me. It's something I do even with family, even with friends, even with things, life, everything. And I think it's important to do it in the classroom. Again, so I just wanted to throw this video in because I haven't been on because I've been so busy. But you know, so what are your thoughts? Do you think reflection helps? Do you think yeah, rapport is important, or just go in and teach? I mean, I used to be that way. I used to be the like just teach the subject. That was when I first started teaching. I'm like, okay, I got to do this. Uh, no matter what, no matter if the kids were misbehaving, I went, and you can ask anybody that knows me. I would do that. And looking back at it now, I'm like, what are you doing? But that's when you don't know a lot, and then after 3 master's degrees, a PhD, a lot of experience, a lot of research, a lot of just mistakes, a lot of mistakes, and I still make mistakes. I'm not perfect. There's no one's ever perfect coming. I don't think so. I don't think anyone's ever perfect coming out of the teaching profession. I mean, you develop, you become better, you become more proficient, but you don't know, you know, some things, and you just have to learn, reflect. So, what are your thoughts on reflection and rapport, developing a rapport with students? I want to thank, another note, I want to thank everyone that's been subscribing. I really appreciate that. I went up to 8 subscribers. I'm very happy about that. I get so excited. So I wanted to thank everyone that has been subscribing. It really means a lot to me. Um, I also want to thank those that have been viewing my stuff. I really appreciate that. It means you're interested. Um, and if it's making you think, I want to thank you for that. I also, more subscribers, the better. So I do want to, if you were interested in this subject, please subscribe. I am going to be doing interviews in the future. I have a few lined up already, but I haven't really, planned them out yet. But those are in the works. And again, I'm new to this. I'm not new to public speaking, but I am new to this. And so, anyway, that's all. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your views and your eyes looking at my stuff. I really do appreciate that. Um, and have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend. And I will see you all probably next week because it's going to get a little bit busy with starting working. So, anyway, thank you. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful weekend.